welcome to this episode of The Daily. My name is Brendan Malone. Well, today is Easter Saturday. It's from when I was a child. Today has always been a kind of a curious and fascinating day for me, in the sense that I've often thought about what it was like on that first Easter Saturday to be one of those remaining Christian disciples, those who were in hiding. Christ is now in the grave. The drama and the horror of what the crucifixion was has come to an end. But your Messiah, your King of Kings, the Son of God, who you had committed yourselves to, you had surrendered everything to follow, is now in the grave. And you don't know how this is going to end up. And I think back to that day, and you know what I think? I think Easter Saturday, for those first Christians, those first followers of Christ, that first ever Easter Saturday, I think surely has to be considered the darkest dark night of the soul in all of human history. When we talk about a dark night of the soul, it's this idea that someone goes through an experience so profound and so traumatic, or some form of suffering or loss, isolation, desolation, that they don't know where God is in all of this. They don't know how to make sense of it. They don't know where it's all going to end up. But the reality is, for those of us who experience those moments, those dark nights of the soul in our lives today, we can look to the account of the resurrection and the crucifixion and then the resurrection, we often do, and we can still see, or at least read about and be told about, the fact that there is always hope. Because we can look to that event as the ultimate pinnacle of that hope, suffering that leads to what seems like meaninglessness and then culminates in this profound life-giving act and truly transforms the world and all those involved as we know it. But those first Christians on that very first Easter Saturday, they had not seen or heard about the resurrection at that point. Sure, they might have seen Lazarus being raised from the dead, but that must have seemed like miles away now from the fact that their guy, their Messiah, he was dead and lying in a tomb. They really wouldn't have had much of an idea about how this was going to end up. And that would have, I think, just been the fact that they hung in there and still had faith is truly profound when you think about it. The fact that they even stuck around, I can't even begin to imagine the isolation and loneliness. And this is why, interestingly enough, in the church, the history of the church, Saturday is sort of traditionally considered a day of focus, if you like, where Mary, the mother of Jesus, is the sort of the main theme of our Saturdays, because of that first Easter Saturday, where the prophet Simeon, right back at the beginning, not long after when Jesus is taken to the temple to be dedicated, and the prophet Simeon prophesies over Mary and says, that a sword of sorrow will pierce your heart as well, and we understand that to be the sorrow of the cross and the crucifixion. But clearly, on that Saturday, Mary was who was the first disciple, because she's the first to say yes to the will of God. And to open herself to Christ when the angel comes and says, you can have it. She says, be it done unto me, according to your word. The first disciple, is the one who really keeps the faith on that first Easter Saturday. And there's something truly profound about that. And I don't think it's certainly something I contemplate a lot around this time of year, is that first Easter Saturday and how dark and difficult it must have been, especially for a group of Christians who had never even seen or heard the word resurrection and didn't know it the way we know it today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow on The Daily.